Hello, and thanks for joining. We will wait just a couple of minutes for others to join us, and we'll start shortly. Okay, so welcome everyone, and thanks for joining us today for our webinar, Does Your Tech Stack Need a CDP? So as you can probably tell, I can't really pass off as being one of the speakers today with my slightly high-pitched voice, but my name is Kelly. I'm responsible for the marketing activities here at Bitbank, and I'll be here to host the webinar today. I'm joined by Giovanni Lorenzoni, CEO at Bitbank, and our guest speaker, Shawn Hong, Business Development Manager from Arm Treasure Data, who's actually speaking with us today all the way from California, I believe. Hi, Giovanni. Hi, Shawn.
Hello.
Hello.
Great. So before we start, we'll just go through a couple of housekeeping matters. We will hold a question and answer session at the end of the presentation. So if you have any questions, feel free to submit them at any time during the webinar, and we will look to answer as many of these at the end of the session. We've attached various documents for you to take away from this webinar, which you can see in the attachments section below, including our recently co-published ebook. This session will also be recorded and available on demand shortly after the live session. And finally, of course, we appreciate any feedback you have on this webinar. So if there's anything you were expecting to see that you didn't, or information that you thought was particularly useful to you, we always welcome your feedback. So at this point, I'll ask our guest speaker, Shawn, to introduce us to this topic. Thanks, Shawn.
Awesome. Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you. I believe it's quite early in the morning for you this morning, so thanks for joining us.
Yes, it is, but thank you. So, so you've likely already heard the term CDP or Customer Data Platform, because just within the last couple of years, CDPs went from being a marginal sort of niche technology to now being the most sought after piece of tech and marketing. But while people gravitate to the recognizable brands like the marketing clouds here in blue, there are actually some vendors on this list that, as of today, don't even have a functional CDP product. All the while, Treasure Data has and continues to be the only CDP consistently delivering real enterprise results. So we're going to explore what constitutes a real CDP throughout this session, but first, let's talk about the problem that CDPs have set out to solve. So why do CDPs even exist in the first place? The first problem, plain and simple, is that customer data is sitting all over the place in a bunch of disconnected systems that were not designed to speak to one another. There was this recent study done by Deloitte saying that most retailers have more than 50 information systems holding customer data in their organization. Now, at first glance, 50 kind of sounds like a lot, but we can easily rattle off about 10. There's CRMs, email service providers, DMPs, business intelligence tools, DSPs, data warehouses, mobile devices, e-commerce, customer service, IoT devices, and even beyond that, there's things like point of sale, CMS, surveys, loyalty programs. I mean, it's an endless list of customer data sources because data-driven marketing requires companies to always collect customer data whenever at all possible. I think a large cause of this is this generational shift towards technology-based marketing, which is evident through the changes made to this MarTech landscape chart over the 10 years. This was actually first released in 2011 with only around maybe 150 marketing technology vendors in total, sort of categorized here by function. But in less than 10 years, we went from 150 vendors to 7,000 plus. So while the marketing clouds are trying to become a one-stop shop for all your marketing needs, we've kind of reached this point where technology has become such an integral piece to marketing that needs are constantly arising, ironically, as a direct result of new technologies acquired, which means that no single vendor can solve the entirety of the marketing puzzle alone, no matter how many solutions they acquire and add to their marketing suite. So the bottom line is that whether we like it or not, marketing today involves cherry-picking many technologies that satisfy many specific requirements from many different independent vendors that excel in many different fields. But as we acquire more technologies based on need, we're actually bringing on more data sources that are not speaking to each other. So you might have customer data stored in your CRM, but your CRM is probably not reflecting usage patterns or product or keyword preferences. Your transactional data is stored in your e-commerce site, but it's kept separate from your digital advertising data, which in turn is kept separate from your mobile app data. Making matters worse, we kind of have a second problem here, and that's that customer data by nature tends to be messy. I'm probably dealing with things like multiple email IDs, anonymous cookies, or maybe I just spent 15 minutes in your store reading the label of an item I ultimately decided not to buy. So this is all uncaptured, unreconciled data, and all this is doing is contributing to an incomplete picture of your customer and ultimately result in an underwhelming customer experience. So let's quickly recap our problem. Customer data is all over the place in systems that don't talk, and customer data is messy. This leads to a fragmented picture of your customer, which in turn leads to unsatisfying customer experiences. The perfect customer journey is when your customer transitions from online to mobile to offline in a seamless manner. So as a marketer in this omni-channel era, your number one priority should be to seamlessly connect all of your online, mobile, and offline data channels, because only by doing so can you gain full visibility into how a customer like Jasmine here is interacting with you and your brand across all your different systems. And only through these insights can we create an awesome customer experience that converts customers like Jasmine into loyal advocates of your brand. Now, the good news here is that all of that heavy legwork is being done with our customer data platform. So why don't we walk through each step of a typical treasure data workflow? Okay, so step one, it's collecting all of your customer data that your company already owns across multiple different systems, applications, and territories. So whether it's offline, online, or if it's second and third party data from a DMP. Of that effort occurs through our plug-and-play integrations catalog. To start with, we can choose something like Salesforce CRM down here. And if we click on that icon, we get a new window to input our Salesforce login credentials. And once we do, we're ready to start ingesting data. But once you've ingested data into our CDP, our ID unification engine then pieces together commonalities in your data, which we're able to use to create a core profile of your audiences based on a composite of all your different sources. Once we've securely created a central record of our customers, we can move on to our analytics layer. So here you can segment your audiences in real time for each stage of the customer journey funnel. Okay, so what's happening here is when a person first visits your website, for example, he or she just sees standard messaging. But as his interactions with your brand evolves over time, your messaging and UI should also change automatically to reflect each step of this customer journey, all the way to the final point of purchase. Now, you can use SQL or Python to code your own segments, or if you're a non-technical user like I am, you also have the option of using this very easy-to-use drag-and-drop UI to define your segments. In this case, we're looking for people that have viewed more than 3 pages on our website based on keywords contained in our URL. There's also a machine learning library built in for predictive scoring and like identifying, for example, which customers are most likely to come back to your store, or which customers are most likely to unsubscribe from your service next month. But again, all this is customizable, the main point being that our UI makes machine learning approachable for everyday marketers. But once you've sliced and diced your audiences, all that analysis is useless unless you actually do something with your data. And with Treasure Data, you can activate your segments directly to your campaign platforms, whether you engage your customers on social media, loyalty apps, push notifications, email, or advertising, as we see being the case here through Google Display and Video. You're piping that data directly to these systems from Treasure Data and enabling your campaigns. So just to summarize, Treasure Data is playing all the key roles in your customer data pipeline, from data collection, cleansing and unification, to analysis and final activation. Okay, so going more into our differentiation, now we mentioned earlier that companies tend to have dozens of different customer data sources and are constantly acquiring new tech. So if a CDP's job is to integrate even 10 of these systems, let alone 50, well, then a CDP has to be a number of things. First, it needs to be scalable. In other words, it needs to be fast, adaptable, and handle massive amounts of data from dozens of different sources. And it also needs to be highly secure. In short, while a CDP exists to augment the customer experience, underneath the hood, it needs to be one of the most powerful data engines at your company. And that's actually Treasure Data's unique value proposition. So because Treasure Data was founded in 2011 as a cloud data warehousing solution, Treasure Data is actually uniquely equipped to handle data at massive enterprise scale. Our founders capitalized on market opportunity and pioneered the enterprise CDP space around 2012. And below on the screen, you can see some of the enterprise logos that have hopped on board since that time. But for each of these, we are prioritizing scalability and security, because scalability and security are the fundamental hurdles for any enterprise deployment. When it comes to scale for our 400 customers, we're ingesting 2 million new customer records per second. We're managing 8 petabytes of data at any given moment in time, equating to about 130 trillion records of data. We're also running 1 million queries a day. To give you a sense of scale, that's more than Netflix, Uber, and Facebook combined. And finally, all that comes with a near 100% uptime, which also makes us industry leaders in platform reliability. So these are some examples of our scale and flexibility with names redacted for this webinar. Wish.com, they're one of the largest e-commerce apps worldwide, ingesting more than 17 billion records daily. 2 of the top 5 gaming companies are also using Treasure Data. One of these is managing 500 brands across 100 countries and websites. And finally, the largest global beer company is also using Treasure Data, in their case, to manage 500 million known profiles on our platform. Now, because Treasure Data was built with enterprise scale and complexity in mind, we take security very seriously as well. So these are some of the security compliance programs we are currently governed by. But remember, if it's an enterprise scale solution you're looking for, you need to prioritize companies that are actually able to deliver on scalability and security. Now with that, I'm just going to make a minor aside here to go back to this table from Advertiser Perceptions, which conveniently ranks CDP vendors based on, surprise, surprise, scalability and security, the 2 cornerstones of any enterprise deployment. Okay. A big takeaway here is that a CDP isn't something you just build overnight. I mean, Treasure Data CDP, it's the result of nearly a decade of painstaking optimization around our customers' use cases. And that's why we consistently rank ahead of the pack for key enterprise metrics. That is also why Treasure Data is the only pure-play CDP on any Gartner Magic Quadrant. In this case, we were recognized for our ability to deal with heavy data complexity, our proven advanced analytics capabilities, and last, here it is again, our field-tested and proven enterprise scale and security. Last year was actually a good year for recognition. We were also recognized by Frost & Sullivan as CDP of the Year. We also won Best Customer Data Platform at MarTech Awards 2019 from a panel of judges at Fortune 500 companies that you can see listed here. You might recall that MarTech is the same organization behind this MarTech 5000 chart that we saw before. Okay, so we're close to wrapping this up. So let's briefly cover a couple case studies here before we hand this off to Giovanni and the Bitbank team. But by tying your data together using our enterprise CDP, you're really enabling some cutting-edge next-generation use cases. So in Subaru's case, they're collecting and unifying data from their loyalty program, their offline dealerships, maintenance logs, their advertising, marketing automation, and social media. And after getting their CDP set up in just 3 weeks, they optimized all their campaign channels using actual customer data instead of gut feeling. And within a year's time, they boosted advertising click-through rates by 350%. Our use case with Parco shows how a CDP unlocks marketing creativity and gives brick-and-mortar retailers the tools necessary to fight back against Amazon. So for those unfamiliar, Parco is the largest department store chain in Japan with 18 locations nationwide, housing 3,000 unique retail brands. In their case, Treasure Data's flexibility has allowed them to ingest the most unconventional and complex of data sources, such as geolocation data, IoT device data, loyalty programs, mobile apps, rooftop weather sensors, and browsing data. I think weather is especially interesting here because one of the biggest struggles for retail is seasonality, and rain in particular has this effect of keeping individuals home instead of shopping. But Parco turned seasonality into a competitive advantage. And what they're doing now using our CDP is, if the weather is rainy, for example, their customers automatically get a mobile coupon redeemable only by coming to their physical store locations. This rainy day special boosted in-store visits by 35%, and it's so successful that Parco has actually become a go-to destination when it rains. And beyond that, Treasure Data is enabling hundreds of creative use cases for marketers that simply would not have been possible without a CDP. Just a quick note on abandoned cart retargeting. We just recently onboarded a famous athleisure brand in just 8 weeks. They are using our CDP to run an email retargeting campaign to customers that abandoned their shopping cart, and in just 2 months, they're already seeing an 800% boost in email-driven revenue. Okay, so that pretty much wraps it up for my main slides here. So just keep in mind, these kinds of results are impossible if the CDP is not built for scale. So be sure to do your due diligence when you're choosing among vendors, and keep scalability and security at the top of your list, especially if you're a large enterprise, and beware of vendors that are only CDPs by name, when in reality, they don't have a powerful enough data infrastructure to support your use case. A good first start for evaluations is going to be our comprehensive RFP template, which lays out the key questions you should be asking any CDP vendor, especially when we're talking about enterprise use cases. And our partner technology director also runs a weekly web demo session for technical marketers. So if you have any technical or architecture-related questions, you can get them answered live twice every Wednesday. And a link to register is going to be included in the attachment section below. Okay, so that's pretty much all I've got. And with that, I'd like to pass the mic over to Giovanni.
Great. Thank you very much, Shawn, and thank you all for joining us this afternoon to talk about the Does Your Stack Need a CDP? First of all, let me introduce myself. I'm in charge of the analytics and customer intelligence practice at Bitbank, covering topics such as customer insight, advanced analytics and data management, and AI for marketing. Bitbank is a data analytics and intelligence consultancy company offering data strategy and data execution services across the EMEA. And we have a strong focus in customer intelligence. To deliver such promise, intelligence at the customer level, we have partnered with Arm Treasure Data and with the CDP Institute. Thus, we are able to provide technologies and methodologies for creating the unified, persistent, and customer database view and solve the B2C market's most pressing problems. Let me make a step back and add some definition, because some of the audiences, some of the people around don't really know exactly what's a CDP compared to other tools in the ecosystem. So, Customer Data Platform is defined by the CDP Institute as a package of software that creates a persistent, unified customer database accessible to other systems, which means the key elements in such definition are the software needs to be packaged, so a package you bought and controlled by business user mainly. It can provide a unified customer view, and it's openly accessible to other systems. Similarly, Forrester defines a CDP, a platform that centralizes customer data from multiple sources, making them available to system of insights and engagement. So there are several definitions in the market, but most of them are common in detailing the key elements: the persistent unified view and the accessibility of the system across multiple systems to deliver data in and out. So the CDPs are a new market, I would say, that continues to evolve with some notable shifts in the last year. Some of the new marketing vendors have entered the market, but there are, according to the CDP Institute, there are amongst 100, more or less 100 vendors across the globe, and the industry is continuing to mature, especially because there's an industry expansion. There are new vendors coming in. There is a global market growth in terms of needs and in terms of marketing needs, and there is either a differentiation and a consolidation in the market. So as you can see, there are numbers growing even across EMEA and not just in US region. So this demonstrates the fact that this is a pretty evolving industry. There are several reasons, I would say, why the customer data platform market has continued to evolve, not just technology reason, but reason dealing with the value that a CDP can deliver to the enterprise marketers. The first one is we are undoubtedly in the age of the customer. And keeping that in mind, there is only one way to win in the age of the customer. So we need to be customer obsessed. We need to pivot from product growth or shareholder obsession and become more customer led and connected and insight driven, I would say. So this is one of the primary reasons or business need, the insights mastery at the customer level. Another reason I would say for the emergence of the CDP and the continuous growth is the need for the customer understanding across every channel. Omnichannel customers are always connected through different devices, making it difficult to identify precisely their journey online and offline. So connecting customer data has been always a hunting risk and a hunting task. So it's increasingly difficult as touch points and customer touch points proliferate. And finally, let me say that especially in Europe, but in the US as well, the CDP industry has grown quickly as business recognize also the need for unified data to comply with GDPR and other privacy regulation system. So customers are more privacy conscious. Brands must be much more efficient with their existing customer data. So the CDP made a value in such regard. So why a CDP apparently is a good fit for your ecosystem? There are multiple reasons to consider the adoption of a CDP, yet none is more important than others, I would say. Some are technical, some are business-oriented or organizational in nature. But as we said, data has become bigger, faster, and more complex, and marketers have the mission to activate such data on more channels. So the main mission for a CDP is to deliver unified customer data scale, right? So the main reason to adopt a CDP is to streamline the data referring to our customers. The more the data we capture, the more we need to handle efficiency and effectiveness. Another reason is the wider is the roadway in terms of customer data, the more ideally we cover the entire spectrum of moments or touch points or instances, situation where the customer had an interaction with the brand. So it multiplies the opportunities for the marketers. And obviously, such powerful knowledge, it's an activator, good activate for every marketing activity across channels and device. The other reason, though, if I would say probably more business-oriented, maybe more organizational-oriented. So the mandate for the business, as we said, is very strong. So the most pressing problems are identity resolution, data management, cross-channel orchestration. And these are expectations that the marketeers have to solve the most important action they have at their end, which is making the personalized and targeted customer engagement through activation available across channel and device. So having a CDP, I would say probably emphasize the mandate for the business to solve such challenges. Also, when I try to emphasize the meaning of breaking down the silos, I not just mean breaking down the data silos. I mean also breaking down the organizational silos. So organizational alignment is very important for making the CDP use cases effective, and relying on cooperation is among different teams is very important. Finally, I consider a CDP a sort of glue, a sort of connector between departments. It could deliver value by acting again as a glue between multiple functions, multiple departments, because all of them, they do have the same mission of customer obsession. So I'll try to make a big jump here as reach to another topic. But before that, let me focus on usual aspects of the way people choose amongst platform and tools. So most of the time, when there are needs to solve, the majority of people look for the best. They try to make assessment across many platforms. They try to define the best functional cases, and they are strongly focused on looking for the best solution in the marketplace. One of the things that resonated me about the CDPs is that there is probably a need to consider adoption of tools and platforms, looking for something that is useful. So instead of trying to find the best, let's try to determine which solution are the most useful in different situations. So let's talk about use cases or scenarios. And let me take a big jump here again. I'll try to give you a real example, switching to another topic. Let me talk a little bit about the airline industry. So some of the examples I wanted to bring you are from the airline industry, where the airlines are every day are forced to decide and to take decisions to define scenarios based on what their scenario is. So I pick one as an example, United, which is the fourth biggest airline in the world, with a capacity of almost 200 million seats and approximately 800 airplanes. As you can see, as you certainly know, all of the airlines, they do have different type of aircraft. All of the aircrafts are made for different purposes and serve multiple scenarios, and sometimes they overlap. So if we just make a quick review of their functions, so they might have more capacity. Some are long range, some are mid range. They serve for different purposes, certainly. Long distance travel, destination, number of passengers. But almost every day, United and the other airlines plan for multiple scenarios. So they think about use cases, and they plan for multiple use cases. So they need to switch amongst different aircraft to solve a specific use case based on range, based on number of passengers who booked, market condition, which are also including the length of the airport and the current aircraft availability and so on. So they are flexible and agile enough to plan for everyday use cases, and they have a lot of variables. Also, CDPs, like Shawn said, are built for specific purposes. So we have many use cases that can be solved. Cases that are beyond a simple customer data management. So they are enhancing customer insights. They cover data management in much more efficient and effective way. They can be an activator for predictive intelligence, or they can be an activator for data and marketing activities across channels and touch points. So there are several I would say unlimited maybe, probably use cases that can be covered. So the real suggestion, the real takeaway here is that we need really to understand what we are looking for and what we need to solve first from a business perspective. Because there are so many use cases and categories, as you can imagine, there are also many functional capabilities that do differentiate among the vendors. Here are some of them, some of the listed ones made by the CDP Institute. And CDP vary greatly in features they provide. So Arm Treasure Data is I would say, simplifying a full stack platform, which include all of these features, which are grouped into main categories. And some of them are shared features, some of them are distinguishing features, but all of them need to be mapped out to your needs and challenges. So again, the CDP Institute has tried to classify the CDPs in categories, Forrester as well. So they're trying to make a distinction amongst CDPs. Some are more geared at solving the data pipes issues. Some are oriented to orchestrate data across channel to target messages. Some are more automation oriented, and some other are measurement oriented. So there are attempts to classify, but again, you need to look at your use cases to understand exactly if a CDP may provide value. So let me give you some possible takeaway from my speech. Even if CDPs are very powerful, we tend to say to companies and clients that we need to have a customer mindset in place to start and to respond to nowadays business challenges. As you might have seen, given the today challenges in the pandemic scenario, many companies have responded quite well, processing the data, the customer data in their end. CDPs may be defined as a connector to the existing ecosystem, so they may play a role of glue or a connector, or even in some cases a core of the ecosystem for customer intelligence. So it depends on how much of the ecosystem you have deployed already, or if you are starting right now your journey to customer intelligence. CDPs, they deliver value if they serve a specific purpose. We probably already said that solving so many use cases, it's useful to start with some of them and then evolve across a sort of evolutionary step. And CDPs are certainly very valuable in companies where there is a mandate for unified omnichannel customer strategy. we do see companies ready to adopt CDPs. We do see companies that do investigate the need for that. But certainly, this is a clear direction for all of the companies who need to invest in a customer strategy. Finally, I believe that looking forward view of where to invest in terms of knowledge, capabilities, and technologies is a great way to anticipate the future. And I consider the CDPs as a great companion for our customer strategy, well established. Okay, so with that said, I'll pass you over to Kelly for Q&A,
yes, great.
if there are some.
Thank you, Giovanni. Fantastic. Thanks. And Shawn, for sharing with us your insights and knowledge about CDPs. I think we've got quite a few key points to take away from this, so thank you. We have a few minutes left to go through a couple of questions. So please, if you haven't already, feel free to ask us a question, and we'll go through these now. Okay, so the first question we have here is, how is a CDP different from a DMP and a CRM? And do I need all three? Giovanni, I think this one is one for you.
I'll take this one, yeah. Well, first of all, DMPs are, well, the question is, do I need all three? Yes, I guess so. DMPs are mostly, they are all about collecting anonymous data. And they are mainly focused on acquisition marketing, so such as advertising, data exchange. CDPs are more focused on embracing and covering the entire customer life cycle. CRM, on the contrary, are historically, they do insist to structured sources of data. They work primarily with their own data, and again, they store limited details for limited periods. So it's probably a different view of the customer. They certainly cover some of the insights you need for the customer base, from the customer base, and that's why most of the time we see architectures where the three are integrated across. Okay,
that's great. I think obviously it's a point that could be another topic in itself, but thanks for the overview. Another question that's come up is untreasured data relevant for a B2B company, or are there specific B2B CDPs out there too? Shawn, I think.
Yes, I actually saw this come up during the presentation, so I'll be happy to answer this one. Yeah, so treasure data actually has both B2B and B2C clients. We just happen to be heavily weighted towards B2C because, you know, as you can maybe imagine, these tend to be the companies with active customer data or marketing needs. For full transparency, because you asked, there are CDPs that are built for B2B. The key differentiation that they claim is that they're able to study audiences from like an account level. Now, whether they're able to handle enterprise level scale and complexity, that's a different story altogether. But keep in mind, with treasure data, we can study audiences both from an account, individual, household level. It's really as granular as you want it to be because the system is so custom. So as a first step, maybe try reaching out to Giovanni at Bitbank or you know, anyone from treasure data to do a quick evaluation of your tech stack. I'd also recommend taking our RFP template. That's actually going to be included in the attachments, and you can use that to vet other vendors for comparison as well, just so you know, so you can evaluate the state of the market for yourself.
Great, Yeah. Thank you, Shawn. One last question that we've had come through is, would adding a CDP disrupt the rest of my MarTech stack? Giovanni, what's your advice on this?
Well, this is one of the questions this is actually a great question and one of the most common questions we get. We said that the CDP deliver value by acting as a glue that connects the entire ecosystem, right? So, so it may play a role of connecting existing ecosystem. So the first answer might be no, it doesn't disrupt or make a big change to my market stack. But if we look at the use cases, so each use cases can be broken into a sequence of tasks, and sometimes the CDP only needs to execute some of these tasks, some of these use cases, but you may also decide to make the CDP replacing existing systems. So the answer may vary depending on where you are with your ecosystem, and most probably is where you want to go.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Giovanni.
Yeah, actually, maybe I can chime a little bit into that answer as well. Like a CDP, it's built to be very non-invasive. So, I mean, the concept is to kind of just plug and play to your existing marketing tech stack. So it's a very non-invasive, very simple implementation typically, unless you have very custom like use case that you're targeting. That's it.
I know there's a couple of questions out there who people always wonder how long it takes to implement a customer data platform. So yeah. Okay, so I think we're going to have to leave it there now. I know there are a couple of answers we didn't get to answer, but we'll make sure we reach out to you individually after the webinar. So I guess lastly, but not leastly, thank you very much for taking the time to join us today. We'd love to hear from you, so please feel free to get in touch with us. And of course, we'd welcome any feedback you have on this webinar too. So thank you, stay safe, and until the next time, goodbye.